Hello, and welcome to episode 27 of the Pos-cast with Rabbi Shmuel Posner and myself, Seth Hellman. Rabbi, how you doing today?
Thank God, Baruch Hashem, good.
Now, if you're watching us...
I spent 2 hours on campus today, in Marsh Plaza, and the sun is beaming, and it was hot, but it was hot also with people putting on tefillin. I met new people. It was Baruch Hashem. It was very good.
It was weirdly warm today. It was warm here in New Hampshire, too. Apparently, it was warm in Chicago yesterday, so I guess the warm kind of went across the country. So,
okay, whatever.
If you're watching this and you're not listening, you'll see that once again for the second week in a row, there are three of us in the picture, not just the two of us. So we do have a guest yet again. This is guest number, is this 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, guest number 4.
We're not counting. We don't count.
Pos-cast.
Each one is a gem on its own.
Exactly. But this is excellent guest number 4. It's the 4th time that we've had an excellent addition to the podcast, to the Pos-cast. So Aric, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about where you are, and then we'll get into kind of the whole life story, why you're here, how you know the greatest rabbi on the East Coast.
So thank you, Seth, Rabbi Posner. I guess we'll start in the middle of the history, which is I had nowhere to go on a sukkahs. I was kind of around becoming from second year in BU, and I went to a place on Bay State Road. Are we allowed to say Hillel House on the podcast? So I went there, and it was sukkahs, and it was closed for the holidays, which was kind of funny, right? Because so many of the frum kids went home for Yom Tov at the time. So a friend of mine, Dan Gil Shlita, said, you go to Chabad. I'm like, Chabad, that guy who had the table, who tried to sell me a mezuzah a year ago? Sure, he'll never remember me. So my freshman year I lived on West Campus. Second year I was in Miles Standish, and I come into the sukkah, the door facing the sidewalk, the opening facing the sidewalk, which is how we build our sukkah now because of that. Rabbi Posner saw me 13 months after the only time he saw me, and he said, Aric, Sephardic from West Campus who doesn't want to come here, welcome.
The only person that Rabbi Posner has ever recognized more than 2 days after originally meeting them. The only person.
Okay.
So I come to Chabad. I have the greatest time in my life. A week later, I'm keeping Shabbos. So I won't bore you with the other gory details, but born and raised in New Jersey, went to BU for undergrad, spent a year living at the Chabad house, setting up, cleaning up, helping with the cooking, David Malenkovich, Shlita, and all that crew. We had the best times, mamish the best times, and went down to DC for grad school at GW, got married 25 years ago and a little bit, 5 boys, and I tell this to everyone, even though I may not be a Lubavitcher, I am a chassid of the Rebbe through and through. And Baruch Hashem, we're right now we are in Israel. We made Aliyah right in the middle of the war, and here comes my 4th son. You can come say hi, Yagel. I'm on a podcast right now. This is son number 4, Yagel Yaakov Yismach Yisrael Kabillio.
Wow, Shalom Aleichem.
And this is a cousin's son. This is Or Netzer, and this is son number 3, Moshe Nising.
How's it going?
So Yagel was the last Kabillio to make Aliyah. He did so today. So we're all here, all 7 Kabbillios plus a daughter-in-law, so that makes 8 of us. And we've settled in Eretz Yisrael because, as the Rebbe said, this is the safest place in the world. And that's always been I remember during the Gulf War, before I was in college, before I was even connected to Frumkeit, I remember seeing this rabbi with a white beard telling people that don't be afraid, right? Don't be afraid. It's the safest place, and it's always been the safest place. And we could talk more, but that's me. That's where I am. So 50 years old, I decided to pick up my comfortable life from Israel and come to a place where I don't have an oven, I don't have a washing machine, but I have all the all the you just feel Hashem in every breath that you take here.
Where are you living?
We're living in a small yeshuv called Nofai Alon. It's connected to a kibbutz called Shalavim with the famous Shalavim Yeshiva, where all my boys went to high school. We're approximately 2 kilometers south of Modi'in. That's the city right in between Tel Aviv and Yerushalayim.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you have connections to Israel, don't you? Don't you have no roots in Israel, like parents?
Oh yeah, my mom was born in 1943 in Tel Aviv. My father made Aliyah when he was 13 in 1949 from Morocco. But they left in 65. They got married, came to New Jersey, had 4 kids, and I've never lived here really. I spent a few months in yeshiva and never lived in Israel. But Baruch Hashem, it's our kids who brought us here, right? V'yeshiv lev avot el banim v'lev banim al avotam, and they brought us here, Baruch Hashem.
Wow.
So you mentioned a little bit about your parents moving to the States, and you mentioned becoming from in college. So what was Jewish life like for you from being born until you were, 18, 19 years old?
Yeah. So I was born, 2 very proud Israeli Jews, brought up 4 kids in America speaking Hebrew, and never taught us how to read or write, never sent us to Jewish school. We had the, back in the day before Chabad houses started printing up the annual calendar, it used to be funeral homes, like every local Jewish funeral home. So we had the local funeral home calendar with the days written in Yiddish, right? Sonntag, Montag, right? All the way through Shabbos. And I remember reading the calendar, because there was English there as well. And I remember all we did growing up, we ate a fish head on Rosh Hashanah dipped in apple and honey. I fasted on Yom Kippur since I was 3, because that's what my dad told us to do. We lit Hanukkah candles and made Pesach Seder. Other than that, I remember reading the calendar and asking my mom, what is the Feast of the Tabernacles? It was a lot of fun, but we don't do that anymore. What's the Feast of Weeks? Oh, it was great. We don't do that anymore. What is Purim? Oh, that was a lot of fun. It was kind of like Halloween, but we don't do that anymore. Meaning they didn't do it anymore because they were in America. So I never heard Megillah, never had Purim, never sat in a sukkah, never knew what Shavuos was until I was 19 years old. And
so what got you to become so observant? Like,
so it's a great question. So the funny thing was I always felt a connection to Yiddishkeit. Like there's of all the holidays that we had, Pesach was this time that was kind of magical, right? We would have a Seder. We would take all the furniture out of the living room. We had a very small house, maybe 600 square feet for 6 people. We had a tiny living room, but somehow we could fit 30 people around the backyard table that we would have to disassemble and then reassemble in the living room. And we would go till 3, 4 in the morning. And I remember, I used to have one of those, silk Dome of the Rock yarmulkes like that, you put on, kind of sit on your head like this. And as far back as I can remember, 4 years old, when the Seder was over, we would all help clean up. And I would go to bed with my yarmulke on. Because when I took it off to go to bed, it felt wrong. Something felt wrong. And I would put it back on, and I would sleep with my yarmulke on throughout Pesach. And then, so I remember looking for colleges, and I got accepted to Columbia, Wesleyan, and BU. And the only reason Columbia accepted me was they wanted me to play football for them. I'm literally like a big, giant guy, right? I'm 6'4", 280 pounds. I played center. But
Me too.
I didn't want to be that close to home, right? And then Wesleyan didn't have enough Jews. I like the only experience I had with Jews in America was either everyone was Israeli or over 75 years old, right? If we went to shul, we went to a dying conservative shul, where my father was the second youngest person there after me, or everyone was Israeli. So this concept of American Jews, when I saw that like schools had 30% Jewish populations, I wanted to know who these people were, who my people were. And I decided to go to BU just because they had the biggest Jewish population, and I thought I could walk onto a 1AA team in football. Couldn't do it because I injured my knee senior year in high school, and they say that Hashem sends the refuah before he sends the makkah, before he sends the curse. And so I didn't realize it, but I remember the first time I kept Shabbos, the first thing I thought of was if I hadn't torn my knee, I would never have, because never had Shabbos. College players play football on Saturdays. They travel on Fridays. And every day when I wake up with a stiff knee, I say, Baruch Hashem, I get to go to shul. Right? Baruch Hashem, I get to keep Shabbos. And that's a true story. So when I was interested in Yiddishkeit, I remember there were, I just kind of went everywhere. But Rabbi Posner, I can never thank you enough, was just honest and funny and great. And, opened up a whole world of things that I just never knew and never thought I'd know. And Baruch Hashem, since then, I've learned many, many hours at nights. I spent, I don't know if I ever told you this, Rabbi, but I remember thinking to myself, like, how did you know so much? Like, where did you learn so much? It's obviously stay in yeshiva and learn, right? You spend a lot of time in yeshiva and then you learn and you never stop learning. So I spent 4 years in a night yeshiva. When I first got married, I worked all day and I learned 5 hours a night, 5 nights a week, Sunday through Thursday. And I remember, and so I was going through Isser V'Heter and Basar B'Chala, Melicha, Taruvas, and I was supposed to take my bechinas for smicha, and I looked in the mirror, and I said, God, the last thing the world needs is one more stupid rabbi. Meaning, like, that's a joke. No, it was a joke. What I remember thinking to myself was, what do I need to prove something to someone for, right? Like, I don't need the title. And I don't need the kavod. And thank God, ever since then we've tried to, everything we do, we've always tried to emulate what we saw in the BU Chabad house, right? The open door, the every Jew counts, not just counts, it's like precious. To the sukkah. Rabbi Posner was in Silver Spring one time, and when I was away, it sent me a picture of my sukkah.
I'll describe it. It's like, it's a suburban place. Like, there's houses one next to each other, and each one has like their grassy area and then like a driveway, to go up. So, and the house is, so the back of the sukkah is facing the house. When you're walking down the street, all you see is there's 3 walls and there's opening. And like, I think it was a big couch or something in the sukkah or something.
Yeah.
That's where King Aric sits and welcomes people, and I just imagine to be a barbecue, to be a grill there with more meat than they had in the Beis Hamikdash, and that was, and I said, this is his sukkah, and the whole community, people, all the young kids would come by to their sukkah, and I was like, that's amazing, because when he lived in the Chabad house, because as he described himself as 6'4", 260, when Kenmore Square, where did our kids go to play? There's no place to go. But they had a jungle gym called Aric. They would climb up and he would pick them up and play with them. So all our kids that were there at that time, they loved him. It was just so much fun. Let's jump forward now to talk a little about the current situation. So let me just say what's going on here. You asked me what's going on at BU, and I sent you the pictures of guys putting on tefillin. And I can't give you numbers, but I can tell you that many students are doing more Yiddishkeit because of it. And it's not just students that the modern Orthodox, as they call them, that have their tefillin, but sometimes they forget to put it on type of thing. There are those, definitely those. There was one kid that came here, I was told that he's Shomer Shabbos and everything like that, and I asked him to put on tefillin, no, and then I met him last week and I said, did you put on tefillin? He says, yes, every day. And I said to him, why? He answered one word, Israel. And that was it. I understood exactly what he meant. And then you have other kids who never put on tefillin. I've had a couple who put on tefillin for the first time just because they saw a table. And my advertisement is do a mitzvah for Israel, picture of a soldier wearing tefillin, and so you have those coming along as well. So there's been I think there's been a number of students that have got more involved in doing something Jewishly. In fact, another university gave me the idea, and I'm starting it as we speak, which is instead of trying to get somebody to buy a period film, which is a huge commitment as far as money and commitment to do it, it's called the 30-day tefillin challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Where I give you a pair of tefillin on loan, and there'll be a WhatsApp group, and you just have to every day post a picture, and it's private. It's not to send out to anybody, but just to keep track that you actually put on tefillin every day. And then after the month, we sit down and talk and say, do you want to buy tefillin? Do you want to buy this? Then we figure out what's going to be the next step. So there are a few kids now that I like. If I find them during the day, they put on tefillin. So this is an excellent thing. So this is something that we're starting to do that based on this feeling of inspiration that people are feeling to do something Jewish. At the same time, there are kids I asked them, why don't you wear your yarmulke? Kids that would wear a yarmulke. And I got a couple answers was, my mother told me not to, because they're afraid. And, at that point, I can't tell them not to disobey their mother. But it's to me, but today there was a girl who came by, and she said, you Jewish, da-da-da. And we were talking a little bit, and she says, usually I wear my chai out, but I'm not wearing it now. And I said, why aren't you wearing it? I want to be sensitive to my Palestinian friends. I said that being a proud Jew it shouldn't upset anybody. You're not making any statements that are contrary to that are dangerous to anybody or harmful to anybody or insightful or hurtful. But what you do is that's what I'm telling you. I stand over there and tell every story I meet. When you express your Judaism proudly, that helps the guy next to you. Everybody's feeling a little bit vulnerable. Everybody's feeling a little bit down. When it first happened, like people were like, "Oh my God, Israel is the place that's safe for Jews," and God forbid it's not safe now. It shook up everybody. Which is obvious. That this had that type of effect on people. And my message is, up your Judaism. Be proud of who you are, which ultimately, like you said, your betachin and your trust in Hashem, that's what gets us through this. And so I'm trying to tell people that when you are proud of your being Jewish, you don't have to make announcements, you don't have to do anything. The fact that you're wearing a Magen David, or wearing a yarmulke, which would be the best thing, obviously, that sends a sign out to every other Jew there. There are Jews here, and we're okay. You can be proud to be Jewish. So that's what's going on at the universities here at college. That's what I'm seeing over here. But then you sent me that message that was very inspiring about the trust and betachin that people are showing, the trust in Hashem that people are showing, which is really fantastic.
And it's funny because here you think that everyone's preoccupied with the war, which we are, right? We even had a siren in our, we had to go into the safe room once because of a rocket attack. Baruch Hashem, it landed a couple kilometers away in an open field, and so it's always there. But people worry about three groups right now. Everyone is obviously worried for the captives, right? We're davening nonstop. And people are worried for the soldiers, right? Because we understand that, when a ground offensive happens, that's very difficult. And then, the war can expand. I don't want to get into the politics, but people are worried and davening for the captives, worried and davening for the soldiers. But more than anything, they're worried and davening for the Jews in Gullus. We really, the Jews here, there's a unity in Achdus that has never been here before, right? People who, as I wrote to Rabbi Posner, people who hated each other 2 weeks ago are dancing together, hugging each other. You see with your own eyes, you can see videos, Hasidim with Shtraim Lacham, right? Dancing with secular soldiers, right? Soldiers, a lot of soldiers were, kind of running to their units at the beginning of the war, trying to get there. Some of their guns didn't work. Some of the supplies they had didn't work, and they were like, "We'll get you body armor." And these guys, I don't know what their connection is, how often they died, and what they asked for tzitzis. That was the body armor they wanted first, right? Give me a pair. Guys or boys, singers are going to bases singing Shema Yisrael, right? The new national anthem. I remember Rabbi Prus one time telling me this. Can I do a Rabbi Prus imitation?
Sure.
Hatikva is not our national anthem. Shema Yisrael is the national anthem. You sing Shema Yisrael, right? It's the new national anthem here. It's amazing. Everyone on the street. I see my cousins, again, guys who do nothing, stopping whenever they can. Some of these guys are putting tefillin on 3, 4, 5 times a day. Whenever they see a Chabad stand, they just want to put on tefillin, right? And these are true stories. And you see, what is it? There was an article just yesterday. 3,000 Haredim went to just the Yerushalayim draft office to volunteer for the military, right? Everyone's there are no more lines, right? Everyone's together, and we understand that there's the other thing I told Rabbi Posner, and this is true. There's one day a month where the locality comes and takes large garbage items, right? So we got into house. It's a little bit of a zecher l'chorban here, but it's Baruch Hashem, it's exactly what we need. And so we had some old furniture to throw out. And the garbage guy comes like with one of those giant claws, right? He's picking up the furniture and picking up all the garbage and throwing it in the truck. And I send one of the boys down to give him a bottle of water. And he says a big bracha out loud, shahachol. And then he just starts giving me a shir about like how we can't be afraid. He's quoting Gemaras and he's quoting Drashim and he's quoting Psukim about how there's no reason to fear. Right, and he ended it off with Am Yisrael lo mefached. Right, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. The nation of Israel doesn't fear because we know we have Hashem. And for us here, we realize that, right? We realize that this is the land where Hashem's eyes are on from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And we're worried for the people who live in places where obviously Hashem's eyes are always on it, but that the land doesn't have the bracha like this land has, right? And we want every Jew to be safe. That's all everyone's talking about, right? And everyone thought that we were like some big giborim because we came during the war. We had an aliyah date. Like Rabbi Posner knows me. If someone tells me you can't do something, I do it dafka, right? So people were telling me, don't go, don't go, don't go. And my brother is married to a non-Jewish woman. He doesn't do anything really. Maybe lights Hanukkah candles. I love him. He kept telling me, don't go, don't go, don't go. The day I landed, first phone call he made me was, how do I come and volunteer?
Wow.
Right? My sister, her husband, also not Jewish. He was like, just I'm not going to say the Arabic curse that he called him. But he goes, we're praying for you. Just fight them and finish them, there's no words. The cashiers have pictures of the Rebbe, right, in their stand. We went today to the Interior Ministry. We got our identity cards. Picture of the Rebbe right near the ladies' desk, right? And people really, I don't want to say I wasted $125,000 on undergrad and grad school, but I saw a video of the Rebbe talking. It was a master class in deterrence and politics about how, that if someone comes to kill you in the morning, you wake up early to kill him. You don't have to kill him, right? And how much better it is for you to get up early to show that you're ready to defend yourself. And maybe that person will rethink. It's not about killing them. It's about getting them to rethink themselves. And if you have to, chas v'shalom, kill someone, then you have to. And I wrote to my group in Silver Spring. We have a Nash list, for on WhatsApp, and I just forwarded it. And I said, master class in deterrence. Don't send your kids to college or grad school. Just watch this and just learn sichas all day long.
It's just funny because I think about it. I mean, you say a little over 100,000 for undergrad. The year now is it's like 300,000. It's like 80,000 a year.
Yeah, we had a T-shirt that said in 1991 I started college. It had the race card. It said Boston University 0 to 80,000 in 4 years. Now it's 0 to 400,000 in 4 years.
So this is very fascinating because here in the United States, I think the feeling is like, oh, the poor Israelis, what's going to happen to them? We feel bad for them. They don't have any food. They don't have any this. They don't have any that. The soldiers are not equipped. We have to raise money for them. And there's this feeling that they're really in a state of real danger.
There is. The danger is there, Rabbi, right? There are rockets. There are still terrorists that they haven't found roaming the country, right? much less the fifth column that lives here that, many of them show support to their co-religionists. And there is a danger, there's a fear, but we live with a heightened sense of awareness and preparedness, but also a heightened sense of bitachon, right? This all changed everyone. So everyone understands that there's no power in the world that protects us. And there's no power in the world that can defeat us. Because we know whose side we're on and we know who's on our side. And that's Hashem, right? And that has permeated the society that you can't imagine. It's something you can imagine. Mamish, you hear the footsteps. They're faint, but they're growing bigger, right? You hear the footsteps of Mashiach coming. Again, and the avas chinam, people just preparing food for people packing bags. Yeah, we're trying to collect things for soldiers, right? Some of them do need body armor. They need better guns. They need scopes. We brought stuff with us on the, in our suitcases, and people have raised a lot of money for the things that the people need. We had an amazing. Our first Shabbos here was kind of quiet. We landed on a Thursday, jet lagged. The community basically delivered food to us, and we ate quietly with our kids. Last Shabbos was our first real Shabbos. Again, I have a toaster oven. I don't have a washing machine. I have a small refrigerator. We don't even barely have pots and pans, and we made Shabbos for 18 people, right? With some of the helping people in the community. And why do I say that? Because there are refugees. This doesn't make the news, but there are about 150,000 internal refugees in Israel, Jews who have had to leave their homes, Sderot, the whole, I don't want to call it the Gaza envelope. The garbage man also told me that the new name of Gaza is the Western Negev. So refugees from the Western Negev, refugees from the north, they emptied a Kiryat Shmona, a city of 30,000. So one of the big cities in the Gaza area is called Sderot, which is obviously always hard hit with missiles. The Sderot Yeshiva is now here in Shalavim, right? So these kids the students are now 8 in a room at Shalavim because they've given their rooms to the Sderot guys. All the minyanim have been moved so that they have a base medrash and that they have places to live. It's their yeshiva now, and we're the guests, right? And so the Shalavim is kind of known. There's the high school and the Hez there, and then there's the American post-high school program, which is, one of the more advanced Misnagdish programs out there with a wonderful staff. And so here you had, on one side, the base measures are now cut in 3, so to speak, the Americans in their suits and black velvet yarmulkes, and the Israeli has their Shalavimnikim, who are mostly Ashkenazi, and the Sderot guys, who are almost exclusively Moroccan and Yemenite. And what did we do? Kabbalah Shabbos was Karla Bach, mostly. Mariv on Friday night was Moroccan, and the whole dancing out of the yeshiva, which was the longest part of it. When davening was over, all we did was dance and sing. Darkecha Elokeinu, Ad Sheyivlu Sif Sosei, right? Chabad Nigunim, right? And it was amazing. The whole, from the beginning to the end, 3 hours before we got home, right? It's an experience that you can't imagine. So yes, there's dangers, but what we're seeing is just so hopeful. Everyone knows what the end game is, and everyone understands it. Some people just can't bring themselves to say it yet. Some people can't bring themselves to say it seriously or as a joke, even that Mashiach is coming. But that's all everyone feels right now.
Amazing.
And we're worried about you. Just come. There's so much space. There's no space, and there's so much space.
What is this, like the skin of the deer? It expands when it has to expand, and everybody fits in.
Yeah.
Well, this is very good. This is what Jews in America need to hear. This is what they need to hear. Stop, like the Rebbe said. Looking at the news is not going to change anything. You look at what happened today. Who said this? Who said that? What did they? The UN said this. They didn't say this. It's all narishkeit. It's not. That's not where our strength comes from. There are people whose job it is to deal with that. Let them deal with it. But the regular Jew in the United States has to strengthen their Yiddishkeit. That's what they need to do, is strengthen their connection to Hashem, because the existence of the Jewish people is not dependent on guns and armor and tanks. It's tools that have to be used, fine, but like, where does it really come from? And that's what I've been reading 1,000 times. Guys, if you look at history, this is just, what are you worrying about? What are you thinking? The answer is very clear, exactly the way you said it. Wonderful.
And everyone kind of remembers where they were Simchas Torah, right? I mean, it was really Shmini Atzeres in America. And, it's one of those things when you have all of your children living in Israel, you have the rocket app. It tells you when the rockets are launched. And, you hear them go off every now and then, and you check. And then when a Yom Tov happens, and it's going on for hours and hours and hours. And then all of a sudden, you just kind of, at some point, the phone's kind of there, face up, and you see how many rockets have gone. And then you see infiltrations, border breachings, murders. You see that. And then you run to whoever one of your neighbors has a newspaper or a radio on. Or it was a terrible moment, right? It was like the most terrible moment that I think any Jew who didn't go through the Holocaust is probably can remember. And we were broken, right? Like the word was getting out. It was worse and worse and worse news coming in, and you're facing Simchas Torah coming up. And it's my Yom Tov, right? That was, you want to know what made me frum? I remember having Simchas Torah, and I said, this is mine. Like, I need this, and I'm going to start keeping Shabbos. It was like the next Shabbos, I just, started being Shomer Shabbos. So Simchas Torah is my day, and I go berserk. Baruch Hashem, we have the best time. We do an amazing Simchas Torah down here. I remember looking at Rabbi Volvovsky, our shliach, and I said, Rabbi, I can't do it. I can't do it. Like, I'm done. I'm not done with Yiddishkeit, but I'm like, how are we supposed to be happy when this is going on right now? And we didn't know the extent. All we heard was 200, 300 dead. Rabbi Volvovsky just looked at me. He goes, listen. He goes, you have mitzvahs to do, right? You can't pick up a gun. You can't get on a plane. You can't go there. It was like your job, the job that Hashem gave you right now is to be the simcha, right? We don't. There's no tachnun during Tishrei, right? After Yom Kippur, right? There's no, you have a job to do, right? You have a job to do for all of those people right now. And it was like the weirdest thing to dance and be besimcha with a few tears in your eyes. But you should have seen the kids. I mean, the kids in the shul were insane. They were amazing, right? Sorry, it makes me a little weepy. And it gave us all the more koyach. I remember people asking me, they're like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going. Because we were supposed to go 3 days later. I mean, that was it. Like Simchas Torah on a Sunday and our fly to Miami on a Tuesday and get on a plane on Wednesday. And, all I kept saying was, you have to go. You can't let them win, but, please, if I'm mistaken, if it was the Rebbe Rashab or the Rebbe Marash who said, Simcha Poretz Geder, right? Happiness breaks down walls. And, if that's where the Achdus is coming from, through all the pain, there's an underlying simcha. As we know, we say it all the time, we kind of gloss over it because we sing it. But how many people really take Shir Malo seriously before benching, right? But whenever the word Az is used, it's a reference to the times of Mashiach. And it says there, Az Yimale Schok Pinu, right? That when Mashiach comes, our mouths will be so full of laughter, you can't even speak. And so it was the Simcha of Simchas Torah that brought us here. And you see the people, there's a seriousness, but the people are laughing because they know something's different. There's like a joy and a laughter with all the pain, right? You see what these guys in Zaka are doing, identifying bodies and body parts. And you hear the stories of the soldiers and when Imach Shemam, the terrorists, are saying what happened. And with all of that, there's a pain, but people are quietly laughing a little. They're like getting ready. It's just something that I don't think we've ever seen before as a people. And so I beg of everyone in Gullus, the mitzvahs and simcha, it's all you have, right? If you're there, be besimcha, be joyous, and do your mitzvahs. And I don't wear a chai, I wear a 14, right? Go through that a different time. But it's a very holy number.
Okay. You got enough going on with the chai.
Yeah, with the chais. No, but if anyone, and listen, a lot of people, if anyone ever wants to talk about what it's like here, if anyone ever wants to just say, hey, like they're waffling on coming or going, call me, right? Just call me.
Beautiful. All right. We got more than we bargained for. Beautiful.
I like my own voice. I apologize.
I don't know. It was amazing.
It was excellent. Yeah, I mean, it's uplifting. You see everything on social media and on the news, and it seems so terrible, but it's very, very powerful and uplifting to know that there's, as difficult as it is, there's still happiness, and there's still people are focused on what they can do. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Just focus on what is in your power. You can't control the things that you cannot control. So,
right.
Thank you so much for joining us. I hope everyone just really took the time to ingest the message and just appreciate this last 35 minutes of discussion that we've had. So thank you so much for joining us. Aric, thank you everyone listening to this episode 27 of the Pos-cast. We'll see you next week.
Anybody who